I've been doing these What's on my iPhone videos for a while now. I was looking back at my 2015 video, which is not great. And you know what? 16 of the apps from my home screen then are still on my home screen today. So you might say that's boring, but I say it means I was right back in 2015 and these are actually good apps to use. So I'm going to go through those ones really quickly this time. I'm not going to repeat too much of what I said last year, and instead we're going to dive a little deeper, show you some of the hidden gems or the secret little apps that I use for really specific things. So especially if you are into creativity at all, you want to do photography, filmmaking, stay tuned. So let's talk about what is different. Starting with my home screen, there is a new background here. Usually I use pure black, but this one was from Canoopsy because he makes all these great designs. I actually darkened it a bit, it was pure white, but also take a look, I do have a new lock screen that I'm pretty happy about. I just really love this photo, and usually I am using one of my own photos for the background, and it's not an accident that I keep my home screen as a pretty simple background. I want to be able to read everything on it really clearly. Sometimes people use really busy photos under there. I want to be able to know what every single app is without looking twice. Something that has changed since last year is now I have two widgets up at the top. One is Fantastical, which is giving me the date, and the other is Tick Tick. Last year I was using Things 3. I switched back to Tick Tick because it's simpler. And for me, the simplest possible to-do app is exactly the one that I need, because my biggest problem is remembering to use my to-do app. So Tick Tick just lets me quickly add and remove to-do stuff. Like once I've completed it, checks it off. That's it. That's kind of my main project manager right now. And yeah, like I said, a lot of this is the same. My other main productivity apps are Notes and Fantastical. Like that's where I keep things organized. I don't use third-party apps very much for that stuff. I experiment with them, but so far I like to stick to those two. Now let's take a look at my home screen real quick. I have put a lot of thought into the layout of my home screen, and you shouldn't lay out your apps in the same way, but I do think the philosophy I took to it makes a lot of sense. I started in the bottom right with the priority apps that I use the most often, and then as they get further away from my thumb, those are the apps I need to access less often. And just like last year, I keep two rows occupied at the top by widgets just to force everything down so everything is nice and accessible with just one hand. So let's start with this outside layer that is furthest away. I've got YouTube Studio, which is my analytics for YouTube videos, the YouTube app, Audible, settings, 1Password, music, and Google Maps. Simple, right? All right, let's keep moving. The next layer here, we've got Notes, Dropbox, Fantastical, Visco, and Instagram. Now, I'll only talk about a few things quickly here. Notes is still what I use most of the time for almost all of my writing, just because it syncs really well across all of my devices. And I don't really want to pay a monthly subscription for something that is just for writing. I've dabbled with other things like Notion, but nothing has stuck the way Notes is. I just always keep coming back to it. But I also keep trying out new ones. So I don't know. I keep dabbling, but Notes is still my favorite. Dropbox is how we manage all of our project files for creative clients, like delivering photos and videos. And VSCO, Visco, I've tried all of the editing apps out there and I still really prefer it. But I have this idea for a video where I test every single photo editing app on the iPhone side by side, and it's going to be a lot of work. So if I'm going to do it, it's only because you guys give me a ton of likes. So what's it going to take? What's reasonable? Let's say 6,000 likes. Can we get there on this video? If so, then you'll have that one coming. Then the next layer, we've got Safari, Twitter, and Photos. And then right in the corner, I've got Halide. So this has changed. Before, I would always keep the default camera app here. And the reason that it's here is sometimes I just need some extra features that the default camera app doesn't have. The best example is probably white balance when I need to manually override it. But usually the regular camera app will do a good enough job. So this just makes it a little easier for those kind of more professional situations where I really need the photo to turn out. I can do some manual overrides with Halide. The way I like to treat my widgets on the right swipe are, this is like current events. So I've got weather at the top, news, stocks, and screen time. I find it helpful to have some kind of unifying theme behind a screen, like it does something for you. So the only other manual screen I have is all widgets. Up here, I've got my batteries, which is very helpful, especially when I want to know how my AirPods are doing. I can open them up and it'll tell me how charged each AirPod is, as well as the AirPods case. And then beside it, I've got a little placeholder for the Find My app. This actually will show my current location. So I just use Widgetsmith to put a little photo there. But yeah, I usually do keep Find My there so that my AirTags, which are on my hard drives and my cameras and a bunch of different stuff, my keys, I know where they are and I have them notify me if I left an important one behind. So I do like to check Find My all the time because I'm the kind of person that's always trying to find something. Below that, I've got the Overcast widget. It's telling me there's a new episode of the Stalman podcast out. I think you should go over there and listen to that as soon as this is done, but also some other recently released upcoming podcasts. I use Overcast and have forever. By the way, that is what's at the bottom of my screen right here. This has been unchanged forever. Phone, SMS, Overcast, and the default mail app. I'm pretty boring with that bottom dock. This widget I have enjoyed lately. By the way, if you don't know how to change widgets, you just press and hold. You can say edit home screen, and now everything is jiggling. That means you can modify it. And these are my series suggestions. So this is just apps I've used recently and they're always changing. So often this is whatever I opened up in the last few hours is available here. A lot of the time I find this more helpful than just overloading my screen with tons of different apps. And as you can see, that's the last screen. Everything else I let my app library manage for me. And if you don't know how to clear out the junk, I have a video showing you how to organize all this. But yeah, these series suggestions are great for giving you things that you use regularly, but you don't necessarily want cluttering up your screen, because I just like to have as little around as possible. So those apps are all the basics. That's what gets me through day by day. But of course, I couldn't talk about what's on my iPhone without talking about what's on my iPhone. And this video is brought to you by Casetify. If you're anything like me, your phone is a big part of your life, so you want to have a good case on it to keep it safe. And when you get Casetify, it doesn't just look good, it is also made from recycled materials. So their impact and ultra impact cases are made of 65% recycled and plant-based materials. They all come in 100% recycled packaging, made from recycled paper and non-toxic soy ink. And you want your phone to be protected from scratches and dings and drops and everything that can happen to it. And Casetify does that with their Qi-Tech 2.0 technology, which not only offers drop protection of up to 9.8 feet, but their cases are also wireless charging and 5G compatible. And half the fun of getting a phone case is showing off a bit of personality. They have endless supplies of different designs and customization. Like, you can just add whatever letters and whatever color you want and really decorate your phone exactly the way you want. There are so many choices on their website. And not only is the case keeping your phone safe, but it's also keeping you safe. Their impact and ultra impact cases are 100% BPA free, 100% non-toxic and non-hazardous, and they feature an antimicrobial coating killing 99% of bacteria by preventing the growth of microbes. And now, before you go to casetify.com/Tyler Stalman to get 15% off your order, I want you to know about the Recasetify program. If you're upgrading to an iPhone 13, you might have some old cases lying around. You can send those into Casetify and they will be recycling them and turning them into new cases. It's a great idea. So now is the time to go to casetify.com/Tyler Stalman to save 15% off your order. Thank you so much to Casetify. And let's get back to the apps. All right, now where to begin? I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. Okay, let's start with one I've just been using the other day. It's called Mimi Hearing Test, and you can create a hearing profile. So if you have any sort of hearing loss, even just a bit, you can go through and test your ears using headphones. It supports a lot of different ones. I did it with AirPods, and it will target specific frequencies that you may not be hearing as well and boost them in your headphones. And I've heard from some people that can really augment their listening experience. Turns out my hearing's pretty good, so it didn't change much for me, but I've heard really good things from others. Another one, this isn't new, I just reinstalled it recently, is Focos, Focos, and basically it gives you access to all sorts of additional information that the depth sensors on the camera are capturing when you shoot in portrait mode. It's one of those things I don't use all the time, but it does help you better understand what that shallow depth of field is doing when you're shooting that way in the camera. Okay, wait, I'm just figuring something out. This is cool. So if I open a normal photo, this was not shot in portrait mode. It still figures it out using AI and machine learning. That's awesome. Actually, I had no idea that was possible. Okay, I'm going to be opening Focus a little more often. Another new one for creatives out there is Grain, which is from Moment, and basically it is a set of like filters and color processing and editing tools for video, especially for doing quick stuff like TikTok or Instagram. This is one that I recently did for a reel. I'm still kind of figuring it out, but it's got a bunch of cool stuff in here, all the basics you'd hope for, and can give you some pretty interesting looks. One that I use all the time, and I even pay for the subscription for it, is Unfold. And this is how I do different layouts for Instagram stories or sometimes Instagram posts. It's now owned by Squarespace, which is kind of interesting, but basically it gives you a bunch of different templates. It can make it look like you've got a film frame. So let's say I was doing a story and I just want to punch up a photo a little bit. I could give it a, let's say, paper background, and it looks like it's folded on a sheet of paper, and it can just add a little texture and flavor to your post. Creative apps, I've also been using Glass lately, which is like a paid social media platform. I'm just at the very beginning of it. But the idea is that like it won't trap people into the same cycle of trolling and feeling bad about themselves as posting to Instagram. I don't know if it's going to last, but it's kind of fun. More important is Videoleap. This is what I use for all my quick and dirty editing projects that I can just do on my phone. I've been using it for a long time. I really like the way that it works. It's like just professional enough that it gives you a ton of tools, but it's very quick to use and I can just get things done in a few minutes. I've talked about Spark Camera a lot. I do still use it occasionally, but a little less often these days. I don't know why. If you want to get deeper into photo editing, I'd check out Lightroom because it does have all the real tools from the desktop Lightroom app, almost all the real tools. Oh, here's one I can get rid of. So Metapho, I've talked about before. What it does is show you metadata about the images you're taking, but I don't need it anymore because if I take a look at my photos, I can just swipe up and now all of the metadata is built into the Photos app. This was a really great addition. So if you're ever looking for any information about photos that you've taken, it's right there below your image. I do keep Filmic Pro here, but I always feel a bit conflicted about it. They have some amazing features, but I don't like their interface. They have incredible programmers, but I wish their designers could make something that I found more usable. Let's look at some news apps. I've been using Flipboard a lot more lately. You might have heard about it here on the channel or on the podcast. And you know, if you go to me, you can see like curation I've been doing about, you can see like the latest videos I'm posting, but I also just share any interesting recent Apple news. Lots of other people are sharing as well. It's just a good way to follow specific topics that you're into. I also like ground news, which is, you know, kind of for like heavier, real news topics. But what it'll show you is bias coverage between different news sources. So as it goes towards blue or red, that's like how many different news sources are covering it. I like this idea. It can kind of expose like what you may not be getting exposed to if you just keep following your typical news sources. And then Pocket, I've been using forever just to save articles that I plan on reading in the future. When it comes to entertainment, I think I've been using Netflix and Apple TV the most lately. Disney Plus kind of fell off a little, and Amazon Prime I barely open up, and YouTube, of course. If you picked up an iPhone 13 Pro, I'd check out Pascal's Wager, which is a great way to show off the 120 frames per second that you have on the screen. I can't even show it in the video because I'm not recording at that speed. It's kind of a gotta be there to experience that thing. A few more quick ones. I use MyFitnessPal to track what I eat. I use Waking Up if I want to meditate a bit. Sunseeker is a must-have tool for photographers when you're out on location, knowing when the sun's going to come up and go down and exactly where it's going to be at what time of day. Okay, and here's a really specific one. I was looking for like a light meter. This is called Light Spectrum Pro LSP Evo. I mean, it's the worst branding and the worst design ever, but it is supposed to give you an idea of what the color temperature is in the room that you're shooting. But you know what? The iPhone also comes with some pretty good built-in apps, like the camera app, and I have the perfect video if you want to learn how to use it. It's all about how to master the default camera app because there's a lot of cool hidden tools inside. So that's the next video you guys should be watching. I will see you over there in just a second.